Welcome back to Tailored Talks. I am Brad, one of your co-hosts and co-founder of OMJ Clothing. For this week, we're going to do something a little bit different. We are going to have a little bit of fun with doing an actual draft of the most stylish TV shows. A lot of folks may not care too much about fashion that watches this, or they might love fashion and style. But one thing I know that a lot of people like is TV shows. So we all here love TV. We probably watch more TV than we should, but that's okay. This week, we're going to combine our love for all things in this podcast with fashion and style and talk about TV shows that we love that also incorporate fashion and style. With me today, to my right, I have friend and OMJ stylist Will Jones.
Hey, guys.
We have OMJ stylist Kendra Cheeseman.
Hi.
And then a special guest today, we have Mr. Noah Williams. By day has a regular job like all of most people. And
sure. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
And then also one of the most stylish guys in Charlotte.
Oh, thank you.
The Southeast.
That's a big stretch, but okay, I'll take it.
United
Sure.
States. But we've known Noah for a long time. He helps us out with a lot here at OMJ, with our photography, video, all the Instagram content. Yeah. That you see. A lot of that comes from Noah, and just a big fan of his in general. We look forward to having him today. And the rules are simple, guys. Like a normal draft, anybody recently watched the NFL draft, we go, somebody picks first. Once a show is picked, it's off the board and cannot be picked again. We will go, Noah, since you're our special guest, you will get to go first.
Absolutely.
Followed by Kendra, Will, myself. We're going to do 3 rounds, and without further ado, Noah, you are on the clock with the first pick.
Instantly know where I'm going. So I'm going Suits. 2011 to 2019. And this is an interesting one. This is when I was I would have been sophomore in high school, starting to get interested in style. And I feel, it's funny, this is on Netflix now, having, I feel, a second wind, a second revival. Back in the day, 2011, 2012, this was like the show on USA. And it was that, White Collar, and then I think Burn Notice was maybe still on.
Yeah, Burn Notice was on.
Harvey Specter, that was like my
great.
style icon starting out. He had a lot of, that's when I started to notice and got the appreciation for the wider peak lapel. He had a lot of Dolce & Gabbana, a lot of very early Tom Ford. Kind of suiting. I think some Gucci as well. But just impeccably dressed and got better throughout the seasons.
I can distinctly remember, I also would watch it when it first came out.
Yeah.
Mr. Porter.
Yep.
That was a first. Mr. Porter, for those that don't know, an online store just renowned for impeccable style. They carry all the big brands, but also known for the style advice. And it's like a safe place you can go if you really enjoy nice pieces. And they actually did a collab for Suits.
Yep.
And that was really the first time I had seen something like that in the menswear industry. We had not started OMJ yet, but like you, the lapels are wider. I know it influenced Will.
Heavily. I literally asked for the Harvey Specter look.
Yeah.
We've
With regards to my first
numerous
suit.
people
Okay.
asked for the Harvey Specter.
Sure.
I don't know what I want, but I want the shirt collar to be really big. And okay, I got you.
And I think when it comes to menswear, that's an interesting distinction, because when people say they want the Harvey Specter look, that character was written in such a way where it was such a powerful and confident person that had great style that went along with it. So I think a lot of, especially as a young man myself at that time, you're seeing this incredible, powerful, big-time lawyer. And maybe you can't be that, but if you can have a similar kind of look and a similar kind of suit, maybe some of that will rub off on you and you'll feel that same kind of empowerment. But no, it was a wonderful show.
Awesome show.
Almost like armor.
Yeah.
Not just a suit.
Yeah.
Literally a suit of armor.
That was going to be my first pick.
There you go.
That's okay.
Yeah? What do you got?
So I'm going to go a little further back and show my age. My first pick's going to be Girlfriends. I feel like it was an iconic television show on the defunct UPN. No one probably remembers that being a TV series, but I think what was really important for me at that age in my early 20s was seeing these four friends that all had iconic different styles. You had the quirky one. You had Joan, the character that was really well dressed in high fashion because she was a lawyer. Everything's like Manolo Blahnik. Looking back at the time watching the show, I never realized how hard it was to get the products for the show because of what network it was on. So a lot of the products they used were Tracy Ellis Ross's own clothes. Wow. So I think for me that was because they just didn't have the funding because they didn't think the show was going to be such a hit. But it ran multiple seasons, and it's just always been like that go-to. Even now, watching reruns, you're like, wow,
So
these
safe.
are amazing.
You're safe
Well, and
space.
she's such a fashion
Yeah.
icon,
Oh.
even off the screen as
Yes,
well.
and like she honed everything throughout those years. So it's just something that I always think is amazing to see these four different styles of women that come together and make amazing fashion on TV.
That's awesome.
Very
love
nice.
Yeah. Girlfriends.
I'll add
Girlfriends
it
it
to
is.
my list. I'm always in
Likewise.
always looking for a show. Yeah, for those that don't, I feel obliged to. One reason I watch a lot of TV is for the inspiration of what you might see, but also I'm quite often doing a lot of administrative stuff at night for OMJ because once the kids go to bed, that's really the only time to get stuff done. I feel confident I probably am going to have seen a lot of the shows that we talk about today, but I have not seen Girlfriends. So interesting. All right, you are up with the third pick.
All right. So to piggyback on the inspiration that you might glean from a show, fashion-wise, Miami Vice, 1984. A lot of pastels, obviously. Don Johnson in character was quite an inspiration for me. And of course, the product placement is second to none as well. You had a big influence from Armani to Ferrari for the automobiles, Rolex for the watches, Ray-Ban Wayfarers, and then the backdrop being 1980s cool or hot Miami. And for me, I can look at a clip of it and I'm immediately transported. And it's something that I've tried to weave into my wardrobe and stylistically, I hold it on a pedestal. So I strongly encourage you to watch it if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I've seen the new one. Is the old one any? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. They did relaunch it recently.
even know there was a new one.
Yeah, no, there's like a
2006, Colin Farrell, Jamie Foxx, Michael Mann.
No, but there's a newer than that. There's like a 20.
It's like a TV show.
Yeah, 2020's one. Yeah.
There's a new TV show.
Who's in it?
Oh, wow.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Not known for maybe its sartorial elegance.
Yeah, I would say not.
Yeah, the original.
Or good writing.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
All right, Brad, who do you got?
All right. I cannot believe it fell to me, so I'm taking it Mad Men.
I knew it.
You guys, I think y'all just threw me a bone here.
Yep.
Mad Men, my all-time, I think, favorite, as well as stylish TV show. I think for me, the key thing I took away from Mad Men is you look at that show going from the late 50s, early 60s into the 70s by the end of its run, and you see a very drastic difference in how all the characters are dressing. So when it begins, you're seeing everybody clean cut, normal suit, and by the end, it's the 70s, and there's sideburns and wide lapel polo shirts, and it's really interesting. But the person who doesn't change is Don Draper. Mm-hmm. He was wearing the same thing, and he looks great. And I was just struck by this guy is a serious person despite his extracurriculars. But from a business perspective, he looks sharp, is dressed well, professionally, is put together, he's ready to go. And he, compared to how everybody else has changed around him, he's looking good. He's looking classic, timeless. And there's a place for it that never goes out of style. And that was my big takeaway is, wow, I think I want to model that as I go through my career.
Yeah.
And yes, there's trends and there's things that a lot of people I work with are going to be gravitating to those, but I think there's always a place for timeless and classic style,
Absolutely.
like Don Draper.
You mentioned, again, on the writing side as someone in media and copywriting and all that stuff, so cool to see the juxtaposition of this chaotic personal life matched with this seamless and perfect professional life, if you will. And even getting to see his backstory of how he was selling furs and all that, and then snaked his way in. It's interesting from a watch perspective as well. You see him wearing a lot of JLC, Jaeger LeCoultre, watches in the earlier seasons, and then as you progress through and things get more casual, he switches to a Rolex Explorer, an early reference 1016, which is a very cool watch and something that I love. But I think as you get into that last season, you see this transformation of, yes, he still has the suiting, but then when he goes out to California, there's this other cool Americana side that he taps into stylistically when he's doing the salt flats and all the race car stuff. I think that was cool as well.
Yeah, and for TV in general, if you want to get Brad to watch your TV show, have it be about somebody that is really good at their job,
Yeah,
maybe in spite of the turmoil in life.
sure.
And Don was great at his job, despite all the things that he went through, which I think is real life. I think everybody goes through difficult situations and things like that. And
Sure.
despite that, being able to still be really good at his job when he was there,
Right.
and still create that presence by how he dressed was, I know for me, it was synonymous with, I want to model how I take my career that way.
Sure.
Also, fun fact, I have probably watched the early seasons of Mad Men no fewer than 8 times.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just on
incredibly
repeat.
rewatchable.
There was a time in the mid 2010s, like 2015, 2016, I'm just doing a ton of work behind the scenes for OMJ. It was really just myself and Felipe at the time. We were creating websites, and we were having to do that ourselves and write the content and the blog and
Sure.
all the things. And we were just doing it on a computer, and Mad Men was always in the background,
Yeah.
always. And I remember I would finish it, what was available. The series was still going, but I would finish whatever was on Netflix and just start it back over.
Yeah.
And just from there. Yeah.
Nice.
And don't sleep on Roger's style as well.
Yeah.
Roger's got great style, for sure.
Also
yeah.
phenomenal style.
I
Tudor
think,
tuxedo on the wrist.
Yeah.
I think him too, he was always in a suit, but he would be a little more adventurous. Wider lapels,
Three-piece
maybe a brighter
suits
color
as well.
a
Yeah.
pinstripe, something like that, which I really enjoyed that as well. So, all right, so Don Draper is the work Don Draper, not the extracurricular Don Draper.
Right.
But that Don Draper, I think, is like my ultimate character inspiration.
Yeah.
So, all right, second round is starting. Noah, you're up.
Similar, but different. I'm going Ray Donovan. So you're seeing a lot of tailoring mixed in unique ways. You have this incredibly rough Boston gangster mafia adjacent guy, in California who's moved out there, and yet he typically looks quite sharp, right? He's got incredible denim on, great jackets. I think
Black jacket.
Anston shirt makers or something like that is who makes the shirts.
White shirt, black jacket.
Yeah,
Makes
incredible
it look
though.
great.
Incredible.
Awesome.
Yeah, great look. But yeah, I mean, what a great TV series as well. Something with watches as well. It's been a while since I've seen it. So all the
And his character
watches.
being a collector of watches.
Yeah. There is. I do remember the scene now that you mention it, where I think his son won something, and he opens up a drawer, and it's just filled. He has like a Daytona that he gives away in one of the seasons. That was quite cool. But yeah, Ray Donovan, another very kind of stoic character who's not usually on the right, but wants to do the right thing overall.
I think his moral compass for humanity is there.
Yes.
You know, I'm not saying he's morally in the law, but he's a person you can still root for because in their core
Yeah.
they are wanting to do what's right. Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. But no, Ray Donovan, pick number 2. Just such a buttoned up, great looking guy. And yeah, that's my second pick.
I love it.
Great.
All right, Kendra.
I'm going with Gossip Girl.
Gossip.
Nice. Chuck Bass.
Blair and Chuck Bass always had these iconic looks on everyone on the show. was always dressed to the nines. But I think the really big thing is even the older one and the newer one, even though I've aged out from watching the newer one, but all of it's like high top fashion. There was nothing left out from that show. And I think it started trends like back in the day when Blair had the little pins in her hair. No one was doing that, and she brought it back completely. So I think it's just like the little pretty frilly dresses on the steps of the Met. Everything was just the style that you base things off of.
Yeah.
And the men were always well dressed too. So I give that creative director kudos on that because it's just, they always looked very sharp.
Yeah. And Dan had some nice
Yeah,
kind of
he did.
grunge, street style adjacent.
Had to make it like that because it was
yeah.
like the dichotomy of the income levels too.
Yeah.
So.
But Chuck Bass, he killed it stylistically.
Definitely.
And extracurricular.
Again,
XOXO.
not one that we would endorse necessarily, but no, it is an interesting look at, and having lived in New York briefly, it really is the haves and have-nots. There's not a lot of middle ground. So seeing those two different worlds, I think was really interesting.
Yeah.
And such a mysteriousness around the entire show as well.
Because you had to know who is
Yeah.
Gossip Girl.
From character to the clothes
Yeah.
to the dialogue in between, just always fun to watch. One of my personal favorites as well.
Yeah.
All right,
Here you
so
go.
you're
All right, so I'm staying in the 1980s. Okay. And I'm going with
Tokyo
the
Vice.
covetable Remington Steele.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
I'm a massive Pierce Brosnan fan, and this is one of his earliest forays into television, really. And he did it so seamlessly. He really hit upon the golden age of Hollywood. His character even would often reference quotes by Humphrey Bogart. And just the way he moved in his clothing as well was something that always struck me on the show. And definitely was a formidable force sartorially, especially early on when I was taking note of how guys were dressing and specifically looking at this element of high-low fashion. You would often see him, say, in a pair of Wrangler jeans, but with a Christian Dior top, which I always thought was really interesting as well. I often would think, that camel hair jacket would look good on me too. That's a staple of my wardrobe and one that will always be a staple of my wardrobe. One of my favorite shows, and highly recommend you guys watching it
Yeah,
as
I've
well.
never seen it.
I'm adding
Check
it
it out.
He's
to my list here.
He's a suave Irishman, that's for sure.
Okay.
But he does the character quite some justice, especially from a clothes perspective, but such a immense talent as well.
Awesome. All right.
Brad, who do you got?
So for my number 2 pick, I'm going with The Crown.
Nice.
So The Crown just wrapped up this year. 2016 is when it started. For those that don't know, The Crown is a life. I don't know how accurately based, but I'm going to pretend that it's 100% accurately based on the Queen, the royals, and follows really from the early years of Queen Elizabeth before she was a queen. And just the way they would do it is every 2 years they would get a new cast. And so just amazingly done from a show perspective. Again, this draft is not how good this show is necessarily, but from a style perspective, you really get to see from 1930s to early 2000s and all the way from like the early years of men and women's style. From the men's side, like Matt Smith as the prince who Elizabeth would go on to marry, from his style to all the way through the final years with Dominique West as Prince Charles.
So
And the outfits, you even get the Duke of Windsor in there, again, inspired generations just from his style alone. And so you really get that old world English tailoring. You get the casual aspects of it too as they're traveling. I call it the yacht attire.
Sure.
For me, seeing how through the ages the fashion really somewhat changed, but also elements stayed the same. Is that British aristocracy. And it was just one of those things I would always find watching the TV show. Again, I'm always looking for inspiration. So we sell a lot of Abraham Moon fabric. In England, they'll pick a fabric maker, they'll give it a warrant. So this has the warrant of the Queen of England. We sell fabric like that. So I'm always marrying the fabric that we have that is made in England with the warrant and how that's applied. And you really see a lot of that tweed. You see a lot of that just high twist yarn that they're using for just their everyday attire. A lot of double breast, a lot of more high-waisted pieces. Tailoring is great, but I would say a classic. There's no super slim. There's no super oversized. It's
Ages really well.
ages incredibly well. And then as they're taking vacations, you're really seeing that casual side come out, which I really love too. The linens and the linen blends. And so I'm a big fabric nut, as you guys know. I'm always, what are they wearing? And seeing them wear it and applies to a lot of the stuff that we make. That was also something that I was constantly paying attention to.
Yeah. And I think in America, when you're talking menswear, we have cultivated our own style of suiting and formality, but we're really pulling both from the English proper sartorial inspiration and then also the Italian. We have a nice blend of that. So I think with those shows, it's so cool to see, even now, like you said, it's a lot of double-breasted and things like that that are coming back continually. And that boxier, more structured fit, I went through the 90s and early 2000s, and I think still is very prevalent and wonderful today when you just need a work suit, a business suit, something quite structured. So yeah, I think you really cannot sleep on or ignore, especially today, what that time period did for suiting and will continue to do for suiting forever.
And the military influence as well.
Hugely. Yeah.
Also, for me, it stood out. They're not just wearing a suit and like they're going to wear the full suit, the tie.
Sure.
They're going to have the accessories, the pocket square.
Yeah.
They do it right.
Absolutely.
You know, I think we could learn from that.
As silly as it sounds, we're filming this on a Friday morning. Getting up this morning, I work remotely the majority of the time, but getting up and getting to put on a suit and a tie and the accessories and stuff like that, there is something wonderful about it. And if I had to do it every day, I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much, but there is something that going through those motions and getting prepared for the day, not to say that I don't normally, but having a certain level of formality, you go, oh, I'm ready to really do something today. So
Yeah, the ceremony of
Yeah.
it
Yeah, it's
is
They're
just
getting
incredible.
dressed for breakfast.
yeah,
There's always a longing of times that once were.
sure.
I know certainly in my house, there will be no putting a suit on for
no.
breakfast until my kids are older at least.
We need to bring back tails. Having
Tails,
the
yes. Okay.
white
Morning.
tie,
Or an
the
event
morning suits. Yeah,
For that.
absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
morning suits, that like where?
I don't know.
Nowadays,
but
where would that
how
go?
wonderful!
We can make them.
How
letting
wonderful
you
would
know
it
we
be
can
to
make
go to
them.
brunch and think, oh, I need to get my full thing wrapped. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm weird.
No, I
am,
just would
but
want to know where you would go for your
I
tails.
don't know. I think we bring it back as a society, and then you have plenty of places to
We're
do it.
slowly but surely bringing the necktie back.
Yeah,
One thing
we
I
are.
will say that I was particularly struck by recently is I noticed where there was a photo of King Charles and there was some mending that I noticed that had been done to one of his suit jackets that you could openly see with the naked eye. And to speak to your earlier commentary, it made me think that when they have a garment made, they have a garment made for life.
Sure.
And so it's a real testament to that sort of English way, if
Yeah.
you will, and something that we certainly can learn from and
Yeah.
build upon.
You look at Savile Row, and this is not my pick, and it's not on here, surprisingly, but something worth bringing up is the Kingsman series. You have this incredible series that's playing off the tradition of that English formality.
Huntsman.
Yeah, the Huntsman, absolutely. Again, Mr. Porter did
Yes.
a collaboration with that. Again, not my pick,
This
but
is-
good one. I'm
He's like,
kind of,
I'm
no,
not-
it's not my pick.
he's
It's
like,
not my
it's
pick.
not
I already
my
have my
pick.
next
Let
pick.
me
I'm
clarify.
Early third.
incredibly excited about it, but I'm just going to bring it up as a honorable mention. Okay, number 3, I'm amazed this made it. And I kept thinking, oh, someone else is going to pick it. But Succession, I think the show that brought quiet luxury to the forefront of popular culture. Cuccinelli, Xenia, Loro Piana. How many Loro Piana hats did they probably sell
So ridiculous.
after? And I still want one. But what a
We can
you
make
know,
one
You can.
with Loro Piana fabric.
No, but I think a really incredible show, wonderfully written. Again, just a look at a world, at least I don't think any of us will probably ever get to see with that
Probably
level
not,
of opulence and control. But how cool, from the suiting to the watches, the houses to the cars, and just the frivolity and the indulgence, I think is interesting. And one, again, as a watch guy, something that really set it up for me, because I didn't watch until the second season
Okay.
was out, and people kept telling me, "Oh, you really need to watch it. You need to watch it. You need to watch it."
Phenomenal show. I mean,
And
yeah.
I remember in the first episode, Tom and Siobhan are out walking around in New York, and he wants to get Logan a birthday present, and it has to be this big thing. And he gets him a Patek Philippe watch, one of my dream watches, and something I hope to own. And
Same.
yeah, absolutely. But the thing that I thought was telling and so cool, and something you do see in that world, is when you get to that Logan Roy level, things don't mean anything anymore.
Yeah.
So he gets this incredible watch that's, I would say, for the wrong reasons being given to him. And, the famous line is, hey, when you look at this, you can tell how rich you are. And then the final shot of that show is he's just given the watch
gives it
away
away.
without a second thought.
Yeah, to a little kid and their family.
Yeah, a little
So
kid and
good.
family. And it's a very sad scene if you haven't seen it. But it is such an interesting thing that there's almost a dismissal of, oh, you shouldn't want this thing for the loud reason. Want it because you truly want it. And he wears a number of thing Vacherons in there, some IWC stuff that's very cool. But yeah, that show just incredible. And like you were saying a bit with The Crown, you're seeing the corporate, wonderful suiting side, but then you're also seeing those softer Brunello Cucinelli vests I think he wears in season 1. That's quite cool in so many different things.
Also, fashion for the women's side.
Yeah,
Sarah
Siobhan
Snook,
is incredible.
Siobhan, just
Incredible
phenomenal
style.
Phenomenal
Yeah.
style there. I think we've had a number of women talk about that show,
Yeah,
which is also within the wheelhouse of things that we can make here.
sure.
So I think it's important to continue having shows like that, women, especially that workplace,
Yeah.
that power suit, how important that is. And there's not a lot, at least in Charlotte, that
Yeah.
really has that.
And
Well-
then to wear it so effortlessly as well.
So
as I feel like
effortlessly.
her
Yeah.
character does.
And I think that's something when you're talking about how they wear it. A great takeaway I would say from that is just wear your clothes. Enjoy them. We're all here this morning. We all have this stuff on, and you can just really, truly live in it and wear it and enjoy it, and not try to make clothing this incredibly delicate thing. These things are made to be worn and enjoyed.
Great pick.
And to add to that,
Yes.
do not forget about the shawl cardigan sweaters, the shawl collars that Logan Roy
excited about
wears.
Yeah.
To me, that's a bit of his suit of armor.
Yeah.
And
You know what else isn't on here?
always fun to watch.
And again, this isn't a pick. The Gentleman. They just relaunched it as a series, but the movie, The Gentleman,
Oh, with McConaughey?
yeah, there's an incredible cardigan in that as well. But yeah, anyway. Pick number 3. What do you got?
Pick number 3. So this one is kind of like hard for me because I picked a TV show that has multiple, but I think the Power series on Stars,
Yeah.
specifically Power Book Ghost 2.
Gotcha.
The reason I'm picking this is my background in luxury, high fashion, is the urban side of it. I think you have this show about this drug dealer's son, and it's showing the time period that, like, he's going to school. So it's these kids don't have that much money, but they're in, like, high fashion.
Sure.
Everything they wear is either Gucci or Prada. They all have these clothes, and it's upstate New York. So I think it's one of those things with you see it, but it's so well done. Mary J. Blige is also in it, and she does these great sets that she wears. So I feel like there's high fashion in it, but you've also got jogger sets, and then you have lawyers, of course, because this kid's dealing with this court case with his dad also.
Sure.
So you have impeccable suits that Method Man wears. So I just think with that, it's just a series as a whole, all of them really great style, but Power Book Ghost 2, which is I think getting ready to end this year.
Is it Stars?
Yes, this is Stars. Amazing fashion.
Nice.
Because I think it's just one of those things, even working in the retail environment previously, people were literally asking for whole
Yeah.
outfits.
I've had people send me texts, screenshots.
Yep.
Saying, hey, can I get something like this?
Yeah.
They want everything. Because it's just something about the way the series is done so well, and 50 Cent does a really great job with his series and the writers that he has on it.
Yeah.
But it really speaks to that urban lifestyle that you have all of these characters and everybody's impeccable with their fashion.
My thing is I always wish I could go back and watch a show for the first time.
Ugh.
That's my like,
Yeah.
you know.
That's an enviable position.
is.
You hear of friends that are just now discovering, say, Mad Men.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
Incredible.
And they're like, oh, there's been so many. I'm like, I wish I could watch it for the first time.
Do you know what I watched super late was Breaking Bad? I watched it like
Yes.
a year ago.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so good.
Yeah.
It's worth the hype. But
All right. So, from the 80s to 2024, top of mind, Apple TV Plus's Sugar.
Nice.
Distinctly featuring Mr. Colin Farrell.
And we won't have spoilers. This is
No spoilers.
spoiler.
I haven't seen it.
Because I haven't seen it yet.
He essentially is a PI, a private investigator.
And maybe something else.
Totally. And a bit of a crusader, I should call him a
Does he
personal
wait tables or something? I don't
crusader as well.
understand.
But he's just a really complex character and one that really navigates the waters of Hollywood and all that surrounds this particular show. There's so many elements to it stylistically, though, that speak to me. And earlier we talked more or less about Don Draper's uniform or how his style didn't change throughout the series. And one thing that I've noticed in particular about Colin's character's style is that it is formulaic in a way and speaks to his character in the sense that he wears more or less a stark black suit with a white French cuff shirt, typically a dark tie, and he also wears suspenders over all of this as well. And it's something that speaks to me in the sense that it grounds him as a character. And it's, to me, from a sartorial perspective, it's something that we see in a lot of old Hollywood, but we don't see as often some of the more current or modern series television-wise. So I'm interested to see how it plays out, but it certainly influenced me on the day-to-day here recently.
L.A. Confidential, L.A. Noir, mystery. It's a great show.
Very much.
What era is it in?
So it's current day.
Current. Okay, because I was
Present
like, I
day.
know I started watching it and I was like, this looks older.
So there are elements within the show where they'll
a
show
big film
clips.
Okay, so
Exactly.
that's why it looks different.
He's a
Okay.
big film buff.
They'll show
Colin
clips
Farrell
of
is,
film noir.
Because it's like you really
John
see
Sugar.
the different shading in when
Right.
it comes on. Okay.
All
So
right.
that is my third pick.
Third
All
pick,
right.
Brad.
My last pick. So I'm going to go back to USA.
Can I guess it? Can I guess it?
I'm currently rewatching it right now.
I guess
Yes,
it. I think it's one we talked about.
White Collar.
White collar. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Let's talk about how narrow a tie you can wear. Because Neil Caffrey's character, I feel like in that show, it is skinny lapels and skinny ties, which that was
But that
a
was that
thing.
time period,
Oh,
yeah.
it was a thing. I wanted it. I had several that were, I don't agree with it looking back, but yeah.
You know, it's interesting. So that show started in 2009.
Yeah, I believe it.
Crazy to think about. At the time, you think about where we were in 2009, things were getting very slim. And I think for me, it's style is a big vibe in that show.
Yeah.
From all the bad guys in the show are also impeccably dressed. So
Yep.
it's this catch me if you can, suave con man that basically he gets to do all these fun things. He's cultured. He's great with the ladies. He is a great dresser, and it's a whole lifestyle vibe.
Yep.
And for those that have not watched White Collar, it's basically about the con man, Matt Bomber. He's helping the FBI solve crimes, and it's a fun show to watch, and a lot of callbacks to the era of where we were. And just
Hashtag menswear.
That was kinda-
also in that show, also featured, style was a big feature. Outside of the show, that was a big way they promoted it. The style of the show will draw you in.
It's funny as well. Some of the worst marketing plugs we've ever seen for Ford and then BMW.
Oh my gosh, terrible.
The Ford sync system where they talk about that, and then when the BMW, I think it was the BMW 4 Series, had just come out, and I mean they're talking like, oh, look at this voice-activated thing I can use.
Like in the show?
In the show, yeah, directly in the show, written script. It was so just
Again, this is
blatantly
not
obvious.
a list of shows on how good the show is.
Yes, just the fashion.
Yeah, but no, it had a lighter, wonderful storyline
Yeah.
still.
The Blue Skies USA TV
Yeah,
was in full effect still.
yeah.
And for those that don't know, that's just your USA TV shows, story of the week. Things usually end up happy.
Sure. But no, phenomenal show.
And I feel like that show as well ushered in the ability for guys to really own their own style.
Yeah.
Before, say, 2009, we weren't really talking about it. There wasn't this open discussion that we're now able to have even. There was more emphasis placed on the runway, if you will, women's fashion to a degree. And with shows like White Collar, it certainly had an indelible mark on me and made me think, hey, maybe I'm not so different.
Yeah.
Maybe it is okay to openly talk about.
I'm just kidding. No, but,
Your style is a part of what makes you interesting.
yeah,
I think
it
it's
is.
is a big piece of what I learned, what I gleaned from that.
Absolutely. And I remember, growing up in a smaller town and watching that, the fedora, I will still never get behind. I don't think they're okay. I don't think they're good. I think
the
a
hat.
wider hat is fine.
I think he
The
got rid
small-
of that after season 1.
No, I remember. I mean,
No, it was a
especially-
guy. There was a guy who was like, he wanted to be Neil, and he put the hat on, and then
yeah.
Neil was like,
losing it after that.
"Okay, hat's gone."
Yeah. But I rewatched the last season not that long ago, and it still made a couple of appearances.
yeah.
But no, when he was doing he would always have a waistcoat on and stuff like that. In high school, I remember I would go into H&M and I would get, I couldn't afford the whole suit, but I could get the cool vest. And then I would go to Goodwill and thrift different ties and shirts and stuff like that.
And it probably gave you that added bit of confidence.
It
then,
did.
to
It did. It was a bit funky. I was working in a surf skate shop in Haynes Mall in Winston-Salem, Maui Knicks, and they're long gone now. But our uniform was like a standard T-shirt, but towards the end, when I was a bit over the job, I would start wearing a tie and a vest, and it made no sense. But with that show, I feel like it kind of gave me the sense of, oh, this guy's cool. And
When we were in high school watching that show in 2009,
yeah, of course, yeah.
But I think you bring up a good point too, is like seeing things on TV really makes you try to do these things. Like you
Sure.
see fashion on TV and you're like, oh, that's accessible. I can
Yeah.
make this look like that. So you can go to a thrift store and piece things together.
Yeah,
Which I think is super
absolutely.
important, that like sometimes you see this person doing this fashion that you're like, can I do that?
Yeah. No.
And then you try it out.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think style at any price point is very accessible. Sometimes you have to try a little bit harder and hunt. I know I spent many an hour in Goodwill and Salvation Army looking for things, but truly, if you have a mold of what you're going for, you can go out and source these things and get into it. I think it's a wonderful thing to do.
Neil got his wardrobe at a thrift store.
He did. Was it Joan? What was the character's name? I was trying to think. I think it was Joan. She was
you
donating
go.
the stuff from her husband, and then
Yes.
and it all fit perfectly somehow.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Any quick run through honorable mentions you guys want to throw out? We won't spend too long on them.
I would say, again, I also just rewatched both seasons, but White Lotus, some wonderful
Resort.
and very, not sartorial, but still well put together in its own way.
Brings you, yeah, it just of a vibe.
Yeah, it's actually the second season set in, I think it was Sicily,
Italy, right? Yeah.
Italy, but yeah, just incredible all around.
I think Scandal with Kerry Washington, like
Yeah.
in the white hat.
Scandal
Anytime
was
she
a
was doing
huge influence.
Yeah.
Wonderful, yeah.
Especially from the women's side.
Yeah,
100%.
women
That's a great
suiting,
one.
like you see her and like she's ready to do business and she's always in this
Yeah.
one color outfit and
Yeah.
she's just doing it and it's great because you're like, oh, she's wearing red, oh, she's
Yeah.
wearing white, this is gonna happen. So I just think she really changed the view of, and actually women's power suits came
Yeah.
back during that time too, because
Hugely.
that was a thing that had disappeared for a very long time.
Honorable mention.
Downton Abbey.
Ah, yes.
How dare we go from a white tie to a black tie?
I know.
That's great. I would have said Downton Abbey if somebody had picked
Yeah,
The Crown.
But just
Before me.
a lovely show.
yeah,
Honorable mentions for me, just a couple I had. Mr. Rogers.
yeah,
I mean, comes in, changes into out of his shoes, cardigan. The end of the show, puts it back. There was something always a bit, I don't know. I always loved that part, even as a kid.
sure.
It just felt so of a purpose.
Yeah, and he showed you how to take care of your things. Because it's like he had the galoshes
Yes.
too, and like he showed
Yeah.
you how to take care of your items.
Yes, and I remember I would look in he would open the door, and there were just a couple things in the closet. And I'm like,
Yeah.
minimal. I was minimally inspired even as a 6-year-old. Kept that one all these years.
Fastidiousness
Also,
of Mr. Rogers.
couple other just honorable mentions we did not get to. The NBA draft.
Yeah.
Go back 2003. Look at those suits. We'll put a picture up.
Yeah.
To now. I did not watch it. I will have to watch it this year. We've done quite a few suits for the NBA draft, I should say.
Nice.
Okay.
Most recently, I watched The Redeem Team on Netflix
yes.
about the 2008 Olympic team, our basketball team. And wow,
Yeah.
how we've changed from a clothing perspective and a fit perspective,
You can see where things were fashion as a whole.
Yeah.
and both on and off the court.
On and off the court.
Absolutely.
So interesting as
Yeah,
well.
and
Yeah.
we're at in this year.
Sure.
Peaky Blinders.
Phenomenal. Nobody can pull off that haircut in real life.
Sure.
Hard.
I have not watched Peaky Blinders, amazingly.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, it's phenomenal.
I'm gonna know
Yeah.
that.
You have that very early turn of the century British tailoring that's just killer. With a military influence as well.
Slightly shorter pant,
Yeah.
leg, which is always interesting too.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we will put this up. We'll have our list for all the millions who care about
Yeah.
this thing. We hope you enjoyed it, guys. Again, we're just having fun here. Hopefully you learned a little something. At least you have a list of TV shows to go watch.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Totally.
We'll see you all again soon. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. How about Vanderpump Rules?
Never watched it, but it's a phenomenal restaurant in Vegas.
Gosh.
It is good.
I've never
R.I.P.
been.
to Villa Blanca. But if you're looking for tanks and sneakers,
Yeah. What's your favorite
of
educational
debauchery.
content you get out of that? What do you learn as a person?
I think it's about humanity for me.
fair. For me, perhaps I've made better decisions than
Yeah.
I've given myself
You
credit for
see where
over the
it's
years.
not good. Yeah.
Vanderpump
Chaos.
Rules, not on our stylish
Yeah.
TV show list.
Oh, we should. The next one, this would be fun to do again. It would be a reality roundup.
A reality roundup.
So, like,
okay.
keeping
I
up
love
with the
that idea.
Kardashians would be good. Actually, Scott Disick,
Scott-
that is a
Yeah.
menswear icon. Not
Through the
anymore.
eras.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
but-
Lord
Previously.
Lord Disick.
Yeah.
Lord Disick, yeah.
Lord Disick, yeah.
So, but
but-
a not fashion top 10?
yeah.
Maybe we're a little too judgy if we do that. Yeah, we
I
won't.
think that's just everything else we didn't mention.
All right, thank you guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Welcome back to Tailored Talks. I am Brad, one of your co-hosts and co-founder of OMJ Clothing. For this week, we're going to do something a little bit different. We are going to have a little bit of fun with doing an actual draft of the most stylish TV shows